I would say this.
He has
too.
a lot of experience.
I would say that having something like that in Uppsala, in Stockholm, in Sweden, could help.
No, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do, and it does help us. Some of the really good poets have come out of that scene, and then giving them opportunity to work in theaters. So that does happen.
The engagement of the audience part, to me, is the best part. You know, the part where people start deciding who's better is when it gets crazy.
And that's why I don't think I would start it anywhere in another. Me personally, I did a lot of slam, but when it started to get to that way, I mean, like I even fell into slam accidentally, reading my own poetry, reading my poems, and they're like, oh, you should put that in a slam. So I was like, oh, okay, found out what a slam was. And I would take my poetry that I was writing before, and I would put it in the slam, and I started winning around my city. Oh my God, and then oh, you're a great slam poet, you're a great slam poet. And then I started changing my writing to fit to win. Now, instead of using what I was regularly writing about, my own passions, I started to find out, oh, this scores higher if I do it this way. If I yell right here, this scores higher. So I started changing my style for like 6 years. I started changing my whole style to fit this slam mode until I finally like broke out of it and realized I didn't want to do it. And I just think it's inevitable for any poet to do that, because when people, if I do a poem, if we'd done a poem last night and you guys throw up a score, you know, it's your heart on, you throw up an 8, I'm like, why did he give me 8? I need a 10. What can I do to make this guy give me a 10? So now I go back to the lab to write a poem to make this man give me a 10 instead of concentrating on what's coming from my heart. And I think that's the most important thing. So, love slam, it got me where I was going, but I don't recommend starting up another one just because I just don't want, if it happened to me, I'm sure it could happen to other people because I'm human and you guys are human. So
interestingly enough, when I got into Deaf Poetry Circle, when the circle was created, I was rolling around with you guys, and I was rolling around to these slam circles because we were going on the road, and those were your friends, right? They were in these circles. And I started to notice that the competition was also being done off stage. Yeah. It was like they would do stuff to you off stage, like if you guys were competing, and yet you guys went on stage. It'd be like, "Po, I'm gonna." One guy said, and I'll remember clear. I'm gonna write a poem called "Poetry Sucks." So every time they say your name, you know what I mean? And it was like, yo. This is getting too far. Like, you know, I found that because, you know, I had a lot of respect for the poets in the poetry slam circuit, because they're the ones, you know, I saw Beau in that world, not originally, and I saw poetry in that world, but not originally. But when they ended up in that world, well, I liked them before I even seen them. So they said if they were going into poetry slams, then of course there was respect, until I started to see the offstage kind of like dynamics, and I was just like, okay, this is too far for me.
But you also didn't have to. So
no, I didn't. Well, I would have, but I didn't slam because of the offstage stuff that I saw. Like, it was because these, you know, the poems were so personal, and I could have left it on stage. But if you're taking it off stage, then the things I do off stage might not be healthy for people to do to me. Because my reaction to someone off stage is very different to my art on stage. Which means I might have to kick somebody in the knees just for respect. Because we're off stage, time out. You might catch a black eye. Time out. You can't call me out off stage, you know? That's how I was. I mean, that's just because, you know.
But that's also close to the hip hop scene. This battles that goes on, right? People can say exactly whatever they want to each other on stage.
Yeah, off stage.
Yeah, but then, as we know, it also follows them off stage. No?
It could follow them off stage. Yeah, some people.
It could, but that's why I think poetry is so important. Because on that stage, which I thought was funny when you said that on stage last night about the fourth wall. There's always a fourth wall. Nice. But I think it's great about poetry because you can say something political or whatever, and they're listening to you. And they're listening to you, and they respect you, and they're like, oh wow, they have a chance to actually disagree or not agree. But if you go off the stage and say the same thing, that could start a fight. Lemon could kick you in the knees, or whatever the case is. Something could happen. It's different off the stage. I'm on the stage, like, oh, he's on the stage. Let me hear what he has to say, and then they're forced to listen to everything you have to say, instead of arguing back. You know, I think that's why poetry is so cool, because it gives you a chance to speak and communicate with the audience, and they can make their own judgment without yelling back or anything. Like, wow, I agree with them, or I don't agree with them, or whatever the case is. But 9 times out of 10, they automatically respect you.
Yeah, but it's the same in a book, no? If you read a poem in a book, I mean, you don't
I
talk back
think
to
it's
it.
different in a book because
Can you imagine? What the fuck?
yeah. You're reading a book, you can stop. You can stop at any time.
It's like
whatever.
Misery, you know, Misery. You killed her.
You can close the book, you can stop reading it. You know, like, oh, I don't like this. Oh my God, this is terrible. I can close it, I can stop it, I can do whatever. But if I'm on stage saying it, you can't stop me. I mean, you could, but I'm saying, not 9
What you
times
said
out
about
of 10, somebody's
Voldemort?
going to come on stage and say, I don't agree with you. They're just going to listen to you. So.
I think we're going to take this 5 minutes, because I just wanted to say a little bit about this. Did I talk to all you three about this autonomous actor and the theme of the festival? It's not really a theme, as the festival is in itself, but I had it in the back of my mind as I was doing it, because I'm also doing this master education in the Theatre Academy of Stockholm that we call the autonomous actor. And this is a name I borrowed from the Belgian Holland scene, where there's a way of working in theatre. A way of working in theatre where the actors take their own decision, not only in the artistic process, but also on stage. And this is something that would contradict a lot how we work in Swedish theatre, but also in lots of other theatre where there's a process where the actor comes in often quite late in the process, and what they communicate a lot on stage is what the director or the text wants them to do.
Right.
And an actor has to find a way into the creativity from that vision. You know? So this is a way of the actors taking back the responsibility for the art that they represent. And we've been looking at, because it's also very, very hard to do, in the sense that most theatre is ensemble work.
Right.
So there's more than one person in the process. And then if you're supposed to take your own decisions, it also has to do in this community going on. So in the education, we've been looking a lot on ways to do this through collectives that work these ways. It's because there's lots of different ways. And if you look at the program, almost everything on the program is people are on stage that has the story to tell, let's say. And that's where spoken word also comes in to me, because it's a staged art, it's live art to me. But it's also very close from the text, or the action of creating the text and meeting the audience. There's almost nothing in between. So it's and that comes really close to the concept of performance art, but also autonomous actors in theatre. So this is a bit how I was thinking, and now I'm doing this. We're going to talk now to the students right after this.
Okay.
So I'm leading it in, so you also know where we're going. But what do you think about that? When you see different, I would say the big difference between spoken word and theatre. I know you think about it a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I would say the difference is that the urgency is clearer in spoken word, because it's the person that writes it, that says it, also performs it. And this is also true for a lot of actors that do their own writing and perform it. But would you reflect a bit on this theory on mine?
I'll give an example of being an actor doing a play that's not mine, as a spoken word talent, right? Which is about 2 summers ago, you know, I was given the opportunity to do Shakespeare, and now this time I was doing a play that wasn't mine but poetic, right? And I'm a poet already, a spoken word artist, and The conflict that happened was I was the last one to learn the way to do it. But because of the other stuff I had as a poet, I was pretty much the better one. Well, I did it better. Because maybe this makes sense in what you're saying, is that because I still brought what I had as a poet to the words outside of what I learned in class, physical, combat, all the stuff they were teaching us, voice, all that stuff, how to count meters and ta-da-ta-da-ta-da-ta-da-ta-da with the words. I was also really clear of the stuff in between that I knew from doing what I do. And maybe that's close to the autonomous actor, which is I'm still gonna bring the urgency. You know, I'm still, let's say I play, you know, Hotspur, you know, my liege, but there's still some kind of poetic thing that made it more fun for the audience to enjoy, a little different from the other actors. And I was the last one to do it well. You know, it was like, I was getting my ass kicked by the director because everyone had their lines down, everyone had, you know, everyone had their stuff ready. They've been to Juilliard, these are graduates from different schools. I was the only one who was kind of self-taught. But when it came to the last and final show, which was the fundraising show, for some reason, something different kicked in for me. Because now I know my lines like the other actors. Now I know my meters like the other actors. Now I know to hit these notes physically like the other actors. But now I'm free to be me too. Because now I got all that stuff down, so I don't have to worry about that. But now I can bring Lemon's poet, performer choices without necessarily taking away from what the director wanted. Was that something that like made?
I don't know, but this is also what actors do. I mean, this is a lot what
good actors do this.
That's
okay.
what actors do.
Okay, yeah.
Put it in themselves, in their own words.
We're talking about. Will you stay for this? Because now we have to start with the next talk.
Okay.
Will you stay? We continue talking about
Sure,
this
cool.
with my students. They're kind of
Okay, cool.
at the door now. So thanks a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.